Hey, greetings. Welcome back to The Producer, Soul Citizens. We're back. Today, we're getting ready to pump it up for July. Back again with my good friends and co-producers, the one and only Captain Serious Fun and Fast Cart FC. What's up, gentlemen? How are you?
Greetings and salutations. That music is smooth. That puts me in a Barry White mood. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, you know, when I found that piece a while back, I actually liked it, and I wish that there was more to it because it's just a loop, you know. But I was like, man, they need to make a song out of that. It's pretty good stuff.
I'm going to comment on it after the show because you probably don't want me to say what I'm thinking during the show.
Okay, fair
Your
enough.
restraint is admirable.
There we go. Well, again, welcome to everyone back to The Producers. I'm Griffin Gaming RPG, and today we're back for the month of July with our monthly thoughts about Star Citizen, about our community and observations that we have as producers. And this week we decided, in the midst of all that's going on in the world, to pick a phrase that's familiar to many called alternative facts. We're going to be talking about this idea of alternative facts. I was just sharing with my buddies here that over the last few weeks, I've been seeing these various videos that people have been producing about Star Citizen. And it's been a throwback for me, guys, because I'm seeing these titles that we used to see like 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10 years ago with this 4-letter word called scam. You know, there was a part of me that kind of felt like we were getting past that, you know, and
We were.
all of a sudden it's being resurrected. And at first I thought maybe it was because, you know, back then it was the grift, right? It was the thing to say, it was the way to get hits and people to watch and view your videos. But it's been interesting. I don't know. What do you guys think about this resurrection of the word scam?
In my opinion, I think it's because content creators who weren't covering Star Citizens are covering it now. So they want the clicks, they want the viewers, and scam is a good way to get those viewers. Because whenever you use a word like that, you draw in some Star Citizen backers who come in to defend the project, and that causes more views. So yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, Guy Kawasaki, who used to be the chief evangelist for Apple, said that the number one way in which you get attention is to polarize people, have them make a dynamic choice, right? And so you do that with bombastic language, right? That radicalizes, right? And YouTube's algorithm, and these social media algorithms respond to that type of language, right? So I think it is a cynical, cold business decision on the part of many to lean into, you know, a community. They want to get clicks, they want to get views, and they're thinking with this new generation of players, what's the way to grab their attention? And that's to create outrage, polarization, and radicalization. And the language of scam immediately has people go, well, I'm either going to click here and see some scandal, or I'm going to click here and discover that there's a battle as to whether there's some scandal. And it piques that algorithm. And for me, it's one of the weaknesses of a platform where we're all on, we all pay attention to it, right? But I think we're going to see this over and over again, to Fast Card's point, as we have new content creators and new members of the community, because CIG wants to do nothing but grow. So we're going to have different iterations of this conversation multiple times, in my view.
And one of the unfortunate things about being a long-time backer like myself is that, you know, you sometimes you can see a word and it colors the rest of what you're reading. So I've gotten better about it now, but you know, someone in our Discord was saying something, and it meant something completely different. But because I saw a certain word, I'm like, oh, they're being negative. But then I had to reread it. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. So I had to be careful about, you know, being triggered sometimes because someone is making one point, but actually saying something different. So reading comprehension is important.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's take a look, guys. As you both know, just recently, Asmongold did a video and spent a significant amount of time, over an hour, talking to two backers of Star Citizen, and they're I was a little frustrated with it. I was excited to see Osmongold once again talking about it. He watched the videos from CitizenCon 2024 or 2023. He watched the Held the Line video. He watched the Star Engine video, and he was very observant and basically said this looks interesting, and if it's a good game, he'd play it. And so months later now, this subject comes up because someone had mentioned about the Legatus pack. The subject came up about the Legatus pack being $48,000. And without going into too much detail, he was curious about it, he had questions about it, and there were some people in his audience that he allowed to come onto his channel, both people who said they were backers of Star Citizen, and share their thoughts about it. Now, personally, I was a little frustrated. One person was definitely feeling a certain kind of way about the progress of the development and was leaning more toward the negative side. The other person was leaning toward the positive side, but in both these cases, their information was off base. There were truths there, and then there were mistakes there. There was bad information that went out. And so the reason why we're calling this show Alternative Facts today is to deal with this idea of people can speak very convincingly about Star Citizen, the state of the game, the direction of the game, the vision of the game, but sometimes they're off. They're missing the mark. Sometimes they share what they think the vision of the game is. Sometimes they're sharing a third party's information, or they're sharing what some YouTuber said, or an article that they read, and not really sharing the information that CIG has shared. So let me show you guys. We're going to do a few clips here. These range anywhere from 3 minutes to 5 minutes, but after each clip, I want to get you guys feedback on it. But this very first one is just a short clip from the first person that Osmongold was speaking with. And it opens up with Osmongold stating something that I think is very important about his vision of Star Citizen and Squadron 42. And then I want you to hear what the person on his show said. And if there's an audio issue, please let me know and I'll adjust it.
Right? Because like here's
100%.
what's so crazy about it is like, so I watched the Squadron 42 shit too, and like the tech demo and like the server mesh, and I'm gonna be honest, man, I can see why you gave him money. That shit was really promising and it looked amazing. I haven't seen a single thing that has ever been better than that. That's the best I've ever seen of anybody ever. So I get why people are giving the money. I totally do understand it. But after 11 years, you know, like how much money do you think they need to finish the game?
I'll put it like this. They have the money to finish it. The issue was, like 8 years ago, they put out a survey to like all the people that pledged and was like, do we want to complete the game, or do you want to just give us free reign to do whatever we want, because we want to make this the most realistic space simulator of all time.
Right.
And of course, all the idiots are like, we want the most realistic thing that you could possibly get, which literally gave them free reign, and there's no end in goalpost, right? And then when I started bringing this up, because I pretty much got blacklisted, I can't even buy ships on the black market that they have.
So what
right?
is so is it a black market or is it a gray market that's facilitated by the devs? How does this work?
I guess it's more gray market, right? So you are allowed to sell ships, and there's an X amount of times you can transfer a ship. It's usually like one, right? So I can buy a ship that's limited time, and then later on I can sell it.
So you can't buy and sell them as commodities. That's why there's a transfer limit. Is that the logic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So it's out there. You could search for it. There's like multiple ones, and people buy ships on it that you can't usually get anymore, right? Or you can't get lifetime insurance on it, because once the ship has lifetime insurance, when you bought it, it keeps all those perks that the ship has.
So that's like transferred over to the new owner.
Yes.
Okay.
And then also, like, so they release motorcycles, which is like $25 or $30.
Sure.
And somebody will buy like 100 of them, and it has lifetime insurance, but you can upgrade it. So those perks will upgrade to the next ship you upgrade to, right? Of a higher value.
So you start with lifetime insurance on a bad ship, and then you purchase your way up to a good ship so you can have lifetime insurance on the good ship. So they're not directly selling it, but they're selling it through extension by you kind of upgrading over a period of time. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much that's how
Okay.
it goes. But they've gotten rid of lifetime insurance, right? So
So this
people
is a
still-
complete legacy feature.
Yes, it's a legacy
Okay.
feature. Like if you click on one of them on one of the ships during the regular through the ship right there tab that you have next to the packages,
Yeah.
it should tell you it's insurance it usually comes with, right? And then they have different versions. They have like War Bond.
Is it
So a
under
war
like
bond-
tech interview or tech specifications?
It
structural?
should just it's been a minute since I looked.
Okay.
But it should say what type of insurance it has. They could have gotten rid of it. I haven't looked, like I've said, I haven't looked at the shop in so long.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the ships, I mean, to be honest, this ship looks pretty cool. Like, I understand it entirely. But, like, yeah.
That's a limited time one. So when they bring it out, I want to say it sells for like $700.
$700.
I want it. That's a Javelin, right? Like, it's not
Yeah.
even in the game yet, except for NPC ships, right? And when it hits the store, it sells out within like minutes. And
wait,
it's crazy.
Whenever you say sells out, are you telling me that they only sell a certain amount of them?
Yeah, I don't have this. I never
see.
paid that, right? But I've just slowly upgraded, and I bought like,
Right.
you know, just upgraded over time with certain packages and stuff. So, but yeah, people go insane. So when you play the game, right? So you're like,
Yeah.
I buy that ship. It's not in game. So what they do, they give you loaner ships in game right now. So you'll get like 5 different types of ships you can use until the ship comes out.
Okay, so it's not, so you're buying a ship that doesn't exist. Well,
Dude,
you're buying a ship.
Half of the ships don't even exist. They used to have them on the what's it called? We plan to release this, and this, but then they revamped it because people were complaining because they kept releasing new designs of ships, or they'll come out with like some random ship that nobody wanted, and they haven't even finished half the ships that people have bought.
So,
Okay, so you're already sighing over there.
Yeah.
Shaking my head,
Oh my God.
Okay,
making
so
faces.
I know our time is we got these 5 videos. We're going to try and make these as concise as possible. So FC, I'll go to you first. What are your thoughts on this one here?
I mean, yeah, he was half right and half wrong, but the half that was wrong was really wrong. He said that half the ships are not in the game yet. It's like, I want to say 80%. That are in game, or somewhere around that, because stuff that doesn't have close to 200 ships, but you know, the players can fly, and you know, at least 150 of those are in game. So I don't know where you get the half number from, and you're getting the CCU part mixed up. He part right and part wrong again. And the thing he said about LTI not coming in, not existing anymore, being legacy. Whenever there's a concept sale, LTI is sold with the concept. So I don't want to take all of Captain Serious point, but yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, give me a couple was the observations you had.
This is just an interesting example about how very often people will say how they feel as everybody feels, right? So a quick example is they come out with ships no one cares about. No, they came out with ships you don't care about, right?
Yeah.
But there are audiences for every ship in the game of Star Citizen, right? So that's just the projection that happens. And you got to be really careful when you're hearing from people like that, when they say very bombastic binary things like that. Everyone and no one and always and never, right? Because when you follow the game as closely as we do, we know that the devil is in the details and in the nuance, right? And that's where you find actually some truth, lowercase t, right? As we strive for truth, capital T. So I found that disappointing. And really quickly, Asmongold has subscribers and followers in the millions, right? 3 to 5 million people pay attention to this dude. So for me, what I lament is the lost opportunity with speakers like this to set records straight, give clarity, make it as simple as it really is, right? It's just, I lament the lost opportunity.
Yeah.
And
I felt sometimes more confused as somebody who's been following the game since 2013 intensely. I was like, what? What did he say?
Yeah.
Maybe I missed
totally
something. You
mentioned
start
that-
thinking you're crazy.
Yeah, let me jump in real quick here because I know we want to get through all these videos. My observations are this: they have the money to finish the game. That was the first one that got me.
Right.
The second was all you idiots out there who decided to make it go longer. And the $700 javelin. When that sale goes on, let me know because I'm going to grab one. Okay.
Right. Me too.
Yeah, there was just the bad information was just there, and like you said, Fast Cart. Yeah, he'd hit on some points that were there, but that those little there's a verse in the Bible that says a little leaven leavens the whole lump, right? And sometimes a little bad information messes up the entire thing. And not saying the CIG doesn't have its failures and faults, but man, let's make them the right ones. You know what I mean? And some of these just give people a bad impression. So again, we're just touching on some of these guys. That was the first one, and this one kind of cascades into other content creators, and we're going to go play the second one now. This one is called "Is Star Citizen a Scam?" by Inside Gamescast. This one's going to be about 8 minutes long. It's a little bit longer. We're going to watch this almost all the way to the end. So let's go ahead and start that one.
Shopping.
It'll be the first time in several streams that we actually get to an objective if we make it.
Whoa!
Oh my god! Oh no!
No. Oh no.
Oh my god, that's like something you'd see on Live Leak.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inside Gamescast. I'm Lawrence, joined by Bruce, and we're here to ask a very important question: is Star Citizen a scam?
Oh my,
and
jeez.
I'm here to get heady with it. I'm here to ask if that, even if it is, does it matter? You know, we'll see. We'll see. We'll get there. But
right.
the game just passed a milestone in terms of total crowdfunding, the 700 million mark. That's a lot of money over the course of over a decade. I think over 14 years. I don't know. Bruce, you've actually been reading up on this. So Bruce is the one with all the facts, all the figures.
Yes and no. It was funny because I was reading a breakdown of how much money it was making like per hour and stuff. Hold on.
IGN had a lot of fun stats about that.
Yeah, that was
like its lowest
hilarious.
day, it made 46 grand or something like that.
It makes like 1.5 million a day, which is like it's interesting because like I guess in the grand scheme of things, when you think about mobile games and like microtransactions and whatever, the larger publishers, that's I guess kind of potatoes. And I was reading the Star Citizen subreddit, and a lot of those people in the Star Citizen subreddit are obviously very excited about the Star Citizen game. So I was watching them compare Star Citizen, the 700 million mark, to other big games, and being like, "Oh, that's how much Monopoly Go made in a week, or whatever." You know, like it was interesting. And I was like, "I'd never thought of it in that context. That this game that has been around for 12 years and is kind of barely a video game in some respects, it really isn't that much, I guess, if you think about it in terms of the AAA and quadruple A publishers. I don't know.
That's an interesting point of comparison. I mean, that touches on something really interesting though, Bruce, which is that I think we have a lot of conventional thinking inside of the way that we look at and talk about games, and those conventions don't often align with reality. But there aren't a lot of moments where that convention is shattered, really.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Star Citizen is kind of fascinating because it does exist outside the boundaries of what we consider acceptable, which is why like calling it a scam is so intriguing. I mean, the Squadron 42 stuff, yes. I think the answer is yes with that.
So we will get, I'm glad you brought that up because we will get to Squadron 40, because Squadron 42, in my opinion, is a very large point of contention with the Star Citizen community.
Oh, really?
And I very much think that whole thing is a scam right now. But we'll get to that because I want to talk about specifically Squadron 42. But first we'll talk about Star Citizen as a whole, like the persistent universe they call it.
Yeah.
Because that's the persistent universe to me is a video game. It isn't a directed video game like you think of a Ubisoft open world or you think of a Battlefield, or it isn't that sort of game. But it is sort of, you go in and like there are things to do.
Yeah.
They're not easy to find. Everything is broken. Just by the way, just to sort of preface what Lawrence and I, our experience with Star Citizen. We've been playing it for years, kind of off and on, like maybe once a month on average, probably more like for me, like every other week. And I've got over 100 hours, probably 200 hours in this game. I played a lot of it. I really like it. I think it's really cool and fun. But every time Lawrence, Jacob, and I get together to play this video game, it is a broken mess. I mean, like, every time without fail, because we know what to do. We're experts at trying to go to do this thing.
Yeah.
But if you make one wrong turn, meaning like, let's say you want to screw around with your ship and you're like, oh, I'll fly it through this, this building or whatever. And if you hit that building and you crash and explode, that's it. Like, you got to reset. It takes 45 minutes because you got to then respawn. You got to go get your ship. Sometimes your ship doesn't come in. Sometimes the game crashes. Sometimes there are so many complexities involved with just getting the ship off the ground. So that's just so you know where we're coming from. I don't want you to think that we hate Star Citizen. I really love it. I actually think it's really fun, and I've had a blast going in there and screwing around with people from my community and Lawrence and Jacob and everybody else. It's a great video game for that.
Yeah, that's a really good preface. Because I agree, Bruce. I think the secret to Star Citizen, in playing it and in thinking about it, is to give up on your preconception.
That's right.
In terms of the money it's bringing in, it demonstrates that there's a market.
Yeah.
There's really no arguing that. That's just people speaking with their money. Now, you can argue that they've been hoodwinked or that they continue to overinvest in a project that is entirely illusory just because they have like they have to recoup investment or something like that.
Sure.
The investment fallacy or whatever it's called. I don't know. I've seen some mental gymnastics there, but I think it's possible to appreciate Star Citizen for what it is, especially since the actual buy-in is not that high.
I agree.
And in the same way, I think it's also possible to just accept that it has found its market, and that market might be happy with the game as it is, which also might include appreciating how batshit shattered it is, like kind of like you were saying, Bruce. To me, that's the magic. This weirdly, Star Citizen is the game that makes me understand what people really liked about like Oblivion. So Oblivion was a really aggressive game, a really ambitious game. It had the what was it called? Luminous AI, where every NPC had like a day-night cycle, and it didn't mean anything except it actually kind of meant something because it broke the game. And like NPCs would just walk into the middle of like you trying to kill somebody. Guards would drown themselves and then blame you for it, and like the craziest shit would happen. None of which was intended, but it ended up creating a very unique experience. And it was Bethesda's ambition, even though they didn't get to the simulation they were going for, a real full world with believable NPCs, they still landed somewhere pretty cool. I think that's what Star Citizen is right now. It's so ambitious, and it's kind of what it wants to be, but it's also very much not that at the same time. But that ambition lands it in territory no other game can get to yet. And then it crashes, and you have to wait 15 minutes for it to load again. So I don't know. As somebody who's played a lot of games, those unique experiences, Star Citizen is one of those rare once in it does something no other game does. Kind of like Steel Battalion. There are games out there that have sold for over retail, or people are willing to pay over retail just because they're so unique. So yeah, I think that's where Star Citizen is. It's the weird, quirky wine of video games. It's also the closest glimpse we have to a full galaxy level simulation,
it really is. That's one of the things that like Lawrence is saying, because it's like broken, but also there's some real magic involved. And that truly, there is no other video game that does what Star Citizen does, which is if you want to fly from planet to planet and you want to stop in the middle and then hop out in the middle of space or on any planet, you can do that. And your other friend can fly to you and pick you up in this incredibly large, persistent universe. No other video game does that. And I've never seen it done. In terms of space and space travel and stuff like that, it really is unparalleled.
Elite Dangerous is tiptoeing towards that.
They
were bolting on functionality. Yeah. That was, I think, the next goal, except they had a real meltdown with their last expansion. Yeah, people were really unhappy, which honestly I didn't quite understand why. I thought it was all right, but yeah, I think I need to check in. I need to check in with Elite. Sorry, I just reminded of that. I don't know where, but
well, no, but that is like the closest point of comparison. You're right.
Yeah.
Elite, it's funny because I fired up Elite Dangerous like 6 months ago for the first time. I'd never played it, and it was a nightmare. Like I was like, it was directed for me at first, like it kind of like told me what to do and how to do it. But then I was like, okay, well, what do I do now? And like all of the controls felt so unintuitive.
They're super weird.
And I mean, to its credit,
it uses the whole keyboard.
It does, but Star Citizen isn't as much like that. Star Citizen is trying to make it a little easier. Now, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but I do think they're trying to make, especially most recently with their 3.23 update, the UI is very much improved. So I don't know. That Elite and Star Citizen are good comparisons, but just I wanted to split these out real quick. When you look up Star Citizen player counts, people call it an MMO, which is interesting because I guess it's sort of an MMO. It's just like there's not really levels to your character. There's money, which is sort of your level, but beyond that, there really isn't anything like that. It's maybe whatever bounty levels. Regardless, it's estimated to have 22 million total players or subscribers, and then somewhere in the neighborhood of like, let's say, on good days, 200,000 people playing per day, which is really good. Pretty solid for an indie game, a self-published indie game. That's truly what this is. So when everyone's like, how did Star Citizen make $700 million? Well, this is how. It's got 22 million players, but each one of those players is so fully monetized, right? They know how to monetize their audience, and they've been doing it for so long that I don't, on average, I mean, I'd have to do the math, but on average is like, what is that, like $100 a person or something? Like I'll look. If according to these numbers, we got 22,168,471 people divided by 700 million, right? So we've got, what is that? Or $700 million divided by 22. Did I do it wrong, Lawrence? Is it 700 million divided by 22 million?
That sounds right. It'd just be 700 divided by 22. Boom. $31 a person.
Yeah,
I mean, the starter ship is 40, so I guess they had some free play weekends that probably fluffed player count.
Which is interesting because, yeah, like I'm glad you brought that up too, because it's $40, which is cheap, really cheap for a AAA video game. I mean, I don't want to consider it AAA, but that's super cheap to start. So you get a ship, and then you can just jump right in and do whatever you want for $40. And also, Star Citizen has wipes like Tarkov, where they wipe every 3 or 4 months or whatever. But whatever money you earn in the game, so you can go out and do bounties and like fun missions that they add in, and whatever money you earn, you can then use that money to purchase ships, so you can upgrade your ships. And that essentially is the whole game, and that's it. Yeah. Like, you go.
I'm gonna stop it there, guys.
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
please.
That's serious. Let me go to you, and you give me your thoughts on this one here.
Well, I didn't know that Star Citizen was earning 1.5 million a day. That's an incredible number. In 2 years, they would have $1.095 billion. So they're earning money hand over fist.
Yeah,
I mean, these guys began with throwing out statistics and doing and having a style that tried to position them as thought leaders, right? They're thought leaders. They're the everyman who's done some research. He's looked everything up and has some numbers, right? But he began with numbers that were so ludicrous, right, that it made me want to dismiss every single thing that came afterwards. But there were a couple of moments where they had almost a self-realization that what they wanted to do in the video wasn't happening. They had a moment where they said the amount compared to some of these mobile games and other games really isn't that much. And you saw them pause, and the one guy had to sort of like restart their discourse because they realized that was the end of their conversation, right, around the money. That actually, in comparison to some other things, it isn't that much. And then they had another moment where they almost understood that they were in testable alpha, right? Where they're like, they have these wipes every now and then, like Tarkov, and I'm like, yeah, why is that? Why is that? Why is it that they have some wipes, right?
Yeah.
Why is that? But I won't take all the points, but it was just another great example. Oh, and really quickly, as an Elite Dangerous guy who's played 4,000 hours, Elite Dangerous is not tiptoeing in the direction of Star Citizen at all. It's not dancing in the direction of Star Citizen. It's not waltzing. It's not crawling. These are not the same things. Elite Dangerous is an instance game with a 32 player per instance max. It is not doing anything that Star Citizen is trying to do with Star Engine and the tech and the experience. So, anyway.
FC?
I'm glad I took notes because, like, Captain Schiffman took like half the stuff I wanted to say. I'm just going to go with the other half. They mentioned AAA gaming, and then they said quadruple A. I wonder where they got that from. At the beginning of the video, you mentioned the mobile thing, so I won't rehash that. But that's something that I go over every so often. But at the beginning of the video, they said it's barely a video game, and yet they play every other week. Or that one guy said he plays every other week, and then he said they both play like once a month or something like that. So how are they playing a game that's barely a video game so often? So the other one said, how do you make the argument that Star Citizen is not an MMO? That's what they were trying to say, correct?
Yeah.
They did say that, or did I mishear them say when they said that?
They said that and then proceeded to tell you how massive it was with the number of subs. It's multiplayer and it's online. I don't understand.
And the 22 million number that he got, I don't know where he got the.
I don't know where they got that from.
He's not even off by order of magnitude. That number is just wrong. I don't know where they got that number because you look at the Star Citizen site. I can bring it up here. It says they have 5.2 million Star Citizens, but probably about half or 2/3 of that is actual account on people, players.
Mm-hmm.
So they should have done. They can't do basic math. What the hell?
I don't know. Like I was like you, Fast Car. I don't know where he got the. I kept trying to figure out what is he looking at that he's seeing the 22 million. I couldn't figure it out.
I think you might have been looking at the letter from the chairman from a while ago, but he just mixed up a number.
Well, but he also got the information about how much money they were bringing in daily. I mean, that stuff's right on the main webpage, and for them to get those numbers wrong.
You must be asking an AI service, and it must be hallucinating because I don't know where you're getting it.
And just to be clear, they do make that money, but only during certain times of the year, like twice a year. Right. So it's not like every day they make that money. Right.
The other thing
that's the level of nuance and insight that's just missing from some of these videos, right? Like it may be upwards of 1.5 million a day, but when and why, right? But that would require actually trying to really understand the project and not get off on this scam idea. So.
The other thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to cut mine short because of time, and that was the fact that he said that he believed that Squadron 42 was a scam. And that was really surprising to hear that in light of the video last year, in light of all the PR that's gone out about the game being in final stages of polish and being put out. I was just kind of surprised that was his position. I almost would think that people would look at the Persistent Universe as being a bigger scam than seeing Squadron 42, but he's not the first person who has said that about Squadron. So whether
I'm
it's
excited that he knows something that Mark Hamill and John Rhys-Davies and Gary Oldman and
they don't know, right?
From where he is, he knows a lot more.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Okay, well, anyway, that was Inside Games. We're gonna go ahead and go on to our next one here, which is Pre-Patch Podcast. This was a new one that I hadn't seen before. It looks like probably a fairly new one. But we're going to do them. They're just going to be about maybe, I think we're starting them pre-post podcast. All right, 13:15. Let me see. I think they're just going to go to 13:15, but I might cut this one short too because of time. So let's see how it goes here.
Okay.
Hey, check out this clip from the Pre-Patch podcast.
All right, the next game. Go ahead, Enigma. You can get queued up for this one. Is Star Citizen. jumped in and played Star Citizen, and purchased $150 worth of ships for Star Citizen.
Real money?
Real
money.
Real money.
Hey man, I'm not going to give you shit for this. I've literally been telling you for fucking years that this game is decent. In fact, I told you before you even bought the game that it probably wouldn't be your style, and I don't really think that you would like it. I'm shocked. I'm personally extremely shocked that you've put as many hours into it as you've put.
What's the base price of the game?
45.
You can get into it for like 30, 45, yeah.
$45
if you want to. Yeah.
I bought
it just really
ships.
depends on what, yeah, I was gonna say, it just really depends on how, like, the experience, like the entry level experience that you want to get from it.
So did you buy like an enhanced edition, or did you spend the 45 and then 150 on top?
No.
Enhanced. He bought he bought a more powerful ship in the form of I think the Avenger or the Titan. Which one did you buy?
Avenger Titan. That's what it's called.
Yeah, that's what I saw there.
Yeah.
And what was the other one you bought?
The Galacta Cillian. Don't please any Star Citizen fans don't butcher me on that one.
Yeah.
But
so
no,
this one doesn't really. I mean, it when it comes down to like the enhanced edition, you're not purchasing enhanced editions. You're purchasing enhanced experiences when it comes down to like your entry into the game by buying better ships, essentially, right? Yeah. Like you're not buying Star Citizen Ultimate Edition or Star Citizen Premium Edition. You know, you're buying a package of Star Citizen. You're getting the same experience. You're just getting a quicker experience into like certain situations and certain things. So
is this the game that if your ship gets like destroyed or whatnot, you're just out of that money?
No. Well, so
okay.
There's a lot. So one of the things that I have been, which I knew, right, going into opening myself up to this game, was the different sides of it, right? Whether it's and we have been on this side. Myself and Enigma have talked about it, right? Like the game is never like I've never doubted that there was content to do in the game or play the game or whatever. Well, I was just basically saying like, hey, the game's never fucking coming out, right? And that may still be 100% true, right? But there was a lot of misconceptions and rumors and all of those kind of things around what is out there. And I had to learn them as well. If something does happen to your ship, you do have to file what's called an insurance claim. You're going to see it happen right here. And this was me literally first time joining, couldn't see the ground. Didn't know how close I was to the fucking ground because I couldn't tell. My ship fucking blew up. So then I am now I'm now sent back to the main area. I have to like get my shit. I then have to go do an insurance claim to file to get my ship back. It costs money to get my ship back.
But if you don't have money.
It costs in-game money, not cash.
What if you don't have in-game money?
So it's still, you can expedite it, right? Is what costs the credits or not ISKs. I forgot.
Okay, so it's either time or
right.
It's just credits, yeah.
Right. It's just credits. So you
whatever the credits
you will
are.
spend in-game money to expedite that, or you can have you just have another ship, right, and you use that ship. So there's again the game is talking about like private hangars and like, oh, you could steal someone's ship and possibly store it in their hangar. There's a lot of what ifs that could happen. I think that where this game gets itself in some trouble, because again, everyone is kind of like, well, what happens if we do like, oh, well, this is supposed to happen. Well, this is supposed to happen. And people are like, well, yeah, well, that's great, but if it doesn't, if you could promise the world and it doesn't mean anything if it doesn't actually release. So I am just shocked, and what I will say is that this is, I thought the learning curve for Star Citizen was going to be fucking through the roof. I'm not going to say that it's not easy, but it's also
the first night that he fucking gets in the game, he's like, bro, I don't know what you're talking about, man. This fucking game is fucking easy.
I did not say that at all.
I literally just landed my shit by myself. I'm like, bro.
Literally, all I said was that the learning curve for this was literally during this chat or during the stream was explained to be like, oh my god, like it's so fucking, it's hard, and or like it's straight up. And I'm not gonna say like it doesn't that there's not difficult things that you got to figure out, because I've asked chat every single night, like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? Right. But what I'm just saying is that comparable to something like Tarkov, when I jump in and I'm just like, I don't know shit, and good fucking luck trying to figure it out unless you're just going to beat your head against the wall. In this, it's kind of like, okay, well,
I mean, again, you had a chat helping you.
I had
like
chat,
if you
but they
didn't
don't
have a chat helping you, you would have had a lot harder
because
of a time.
because I started playing before chat and with the tutorial, and the tutorial I was able to like, okay, cool, this is how I get into my ship, this is how I get my ship up, this is how I start flying, this is how I land, type of things. Like, yes, I had to kind of figure out and ask chat a couple different like things about like, okay, how do I do this? But like the tutorial does a good job of teaching you that, and I have felt comfortable enough to jump in and play without having to be streaming or having chats like guidance. That's what I'm saying. Like Tarkov is one of those things where I feel like Tarkov is a lot more difficult than what this is to get into. And start doing.
I completely disagree with you on that one, but I've never played Tarkov, so I'm just watching you guys play it. So
it's not again, it's rough, but I also love the fact that really this game does give you kind of the option to be like, hey, you can do whatever you fucking want, right? Like you want to be a trucker, be a trucker. You want to be a fucking medic, be a medic. There's still a lot of things that are still fucked with the game and borked. Like yesterday, my ship completely just blew up out of nowhere.
Yep.
Like
that's Star Citizen for you.
Just fucking, I was literally in the middle of finishing a mission that I had spent probably like 2.5 hours on, trying to get done. And then my ship blew up and I was like, well, that was 2.5 hours fucking wasted. So that doesn't feel fun. But
just to address some of the questions in the chat. Yes, this is like Star Citizen does sell ships for thousands of dollars that aren't in the game yet. Yes, this is the game. Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, whether or not you want to, pay for that, you can. There's a really good take. Good.
I was just about to say that is one good thing about like the current rendition of Star Citizen is like now that they have the persistent universe, which is what they're basically labeling as like they no longer have to wipe everything. Oh, I mean, I think they still do wipes. I don't quote me on that, but they no longer have to, like, when you go into this server, when you go into the universe and you do something, your credits are still there when you log back on. Like if you log back off and log back on, your credits are still there. The PU is now like solidified enough that like you can start buying ships. So you no longer have to, you're no longer stuck to just like what ships you bought on your package, essentially, which was what was the case for a long time, right? Now you can go in, you can do some space trucking, you can do some whatever you were doing with the cargo. You can steal people's ships. Yeah. Granted, you're not going to be able to keep people's ships. That's not part of it. Yeah, but that will be part of it at some point. They want it to be, but yeah,
keep it or sell.
Yeah. Well, so I stole someone's ship. Shocker. It was, I couldn't land it where I needed to land it or whatever else. You had to go to like these outskirts. So they have these cool rules and cool sets in play. I want to ask you that question. How long do you think that they can keep doing this? Like, hey, this will come, this will come, this will come.
I don't think they can do it for very much long. There is actually like you got to remember this game has been in development for like since like 2012, 2013, right? Like it's been in development for an extremely long time. And it's starting to get to that point now. Granted, there's probably people out there that will defend it to the fucking teeth, right? They'll go down on that ship trying to defend it and everything like that, right? I was one of those people for a long time. I was one of those people that was like, I can see the vision. I know I can see what they want to do with it, right? And I believe in it. I am slowly now starting to be one of those people that's like, okay, it's been a development enough. Like you guys need to stop promising new shit and fix and implement the shit that you have currently. Like you need to stop promising new things and just work on the fucking game and get it out, right? Because like we've now been I don't know how many years, right, where they've been promising us new shit, implementing one or two of the little things, promising new shit, and implementing one or two of the little things. Like I literally just barely got my ship that I bought a long ass time ago. I want to say like 6-7 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, right? So like Yeah,
And I mean,
I don't think they can continue to do it for very much longer, because I know that a lot of like the diehard community that would have been defending them for every decision is starting to go against them a little bit recently. So
well, and there is like the first person mode, which I've seen good and bad. I've watched some videos. I've not participated in the first person shooter mode, but I've heard good, I've heard bad. They've added a lot of other cool stuff, but I think where we're all kind of getting, and even like me being very new into this, and you're seeing it right here, like server error, please wait. You're just kind of like, okay. And if this happens in the middle of like you doing something and the server crashes, you're sent right back to the base. You're fucked. Like
you're out of whatever you were doing. Yep.
Right. Like I think at a certain, like what we're all kind of at is like, guys, you stop adding stuff, like make the game completely smooth, playable, work, or whatever else. And then if you want to add more shit later, like do that. Like that's what an MMO
Which
does.
they have been doing. Like they have been trying to do it a little bit, but it's definitely one of those things where I think that at this point it's almost like they've promised so much that it's an unobtainable goal.
Right.
To add everything in.
It's
almost
like releasing WoW and then being like, hey, we're gonna add this now, we're gonna add this now, we're gonna add this now, but like WoW is never fucking playable out, and it's somewhat feel like when you play this game, you'll be in awe at first of like, oh my god, these ships are fucking really fully rendered. Like yesterday, I was walked onto this dude's fucking. This thing was massive, and it was crazy.
Yeah, an 890 jump, which is like the super yacht of the space.
Crazy or whatever else, and it's impressive as shit. But like, I'm sitting there like, oh my god, this is amazing. But then you're like, and then you're like, this is held together with duct tape and chewing gum.
Well,
like it's
and see that right there is a really good example, and like they completed that, like the design of that before they completed the design of my ship, right? Or not who completed it, but like implemented it into the game. My ship, the Hull C, was one of the original ships that was announced like back in 2012, 2013 area, right? So like they completed the 890 jump, and I don't quote me on this. I'm not 100% on this, but I think the 890 jump came in before the Hull C, right? Like that, like the priorities are just a little shifted. Right. They're just a little skewed on some of these things. They've added in ships that they've just barely like announced before some of their older ships. It's just I don't know, man. It's a very weird priority scheme when it comes down to like their development, and I don't understand it. I get that, like at least with the Hull C, a lot of people will say, well they didn't have a way of like the Hull C when it's extended docking, so they couldn't implement it into the game at that point because there was no way for them to be able to dock while fully extended in space. But it's one of those things where it's like you could still give me the ship, like let me see the ship that I paid money for. Don't withhold it for years and years and years until you finally do. Like that makes no sense to me. It's just I don't know, man.
I don't know. Anyway.
Okay. Sounds like you, Fast Car. Just give me my Banu Merchantman. That's all. Just give it to me.
I've never said that. I've never said that. Don't do that. Don't put that out there.
Okay. All right. Let me go to you then on this one first. Let's get a couple points here on this one. Any thoughts on this one?
Star Citizen is more difficult to play than Tarkov, but I've never played Tarkov. Oh my goodness. I looked at the camera at that one. That was like, how can you compare to the game that you say you never played? You say it's more difficult. Okay. But I do like this video more in that it's more, they're just having a conversation. It's, three friends having a conversation about a game that they happen to be recording, putting it out there. So this one is cool. And Sinan, I guess that is his name. I can forgive him for not knowing the name Shulin. I'm not butchering him. I'm just saying I understand. Right. It's a difficult word, so right. I'm not going to give you a hard time about that. But yeah, that Tarkov one, I think that was a highlight for me. Okay. Oh, and they don't know that 1.0 is coming. Like he's saying that it's going to be keep on going forever. 4.0 is coming. 1.0 is coming after that. So yeah.
Okay. Cap, you got a couple?
Yeah, I felt like this was a very common sentiment, right? Frustration in large part because they don't really understand some of the decisions that have been made. Right? It didn't feel unreasonable to me. Some of the assertions, I think, are mischaracterized, but I didn't see any blatant, like, just absolutely got it wrong stuff here. It was more like, that's a particularly interesting take, right? I'm not sure I necessarily agree, or maybe I would amplify that more, but this for me was, in a couple of different ways, representative of who I think are going to be a lot of players who just sort of touch the game.
Yeah.
On the one hand, and you had another guy who's been in it since he got his whole C close to launch, and still is sort of like kind of in it, kind of out of it, right? And I think we who follow the game very closely, who know every term, who know every name, who know every manufacturer, who know every detail, we got to have a lot of grace for these types of players, right? Because that's going to be a large contingent of Star Citizen players over the long term who, they're living their life and their world and their detail is somewhere else, right? But they just come in here to grab the Gataksuyen, which he couldn't say, right? Because he's like, whatever it is, right? And there's going to be a lot of folks like that. Now, how long they stay, what the arc of their journey actually ends up being will be very interesting. But I do feel like these guys were a lot more representative of the reasonable everyman than some other content that I've seen.
See, that's interesting that both of you guys felt pretty mild on these guys. I was harsh on these guys. I'll tell you why.
They talk about the 890. That's why I tell back. No,
it wasn't that. No, it wasn't
I'm correct when it comes to origin.
No, it wasn't even that. This was the one that was the classic example of what I'm talking about. You've got the guy who admits, I tried Star Citizen and I spent $150 and was happy with it. He was enjoying the experience, right? Then you've got the guy who's the veteran and saying, instead of saying, that's great, he's salty now. He's the guy who's actually like, I told you to get in this a long time ago, but, right? So check out the stuff that
if
the
you
guy...
didn't have the chat, you wouldn't have enjoyed it. It would have been much more difficult. He's like, I followed the tutorial.
Exactly. So here's the guy here's the $150 guy. The guy on the left says, I used the tutorial, that it wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be. He even said, there are a lot of misconceptions and rumors about this game that are wrong. The new guy says that, right? The old guy is the one who spits out the alternative facts. Here's one of them. He says, you bought the Avenger or the Titan? Which one? They're the same freaking ship, right? He doesn't even know the difference between the Avenger and the Titan. Then he says, they're paying more for the, what did he call it? The enhanced experience when you buy another ship, right? Where'd that term come from? Enhanced experience.
Right.
And then he says, Star Citizen, that's the game that people spend thousands of dollars on. Ships cost thousands of dollars when there's only a couple of ships that cost over $1,000. The bulk of the ships cost less than that. My point is, here's the guy who's the veteran who people are going to listen to because he's been playing the game and he's the one putting out the bad info. The new guy has got it right. He even admits the fact that there are misconceptions about the game, which is why, again, my concern is about what we talk about these people on the outside, but what about these people on the inside who have quote unquote been in the game 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years and they're getting it wrong? That is messing with my head a little bit.
I do have to push back a little bit because I don't know when Enigma started, but he's probably thinking about the original Avenger before it got split into three, before they made
that guy said that he got the Hull C back when it first came out. That was back in freaking 2015 or 2014. He's been around a long time, and maybe it was a slip of the lip between the two ships. All I'm saying is, if you've been around any amount of time, the Titan and the Avenger are the same ship. He distinguished them as two different ships.
I think there's going to be a lot of people like him, though, Griff, that came in, and you've talked about this experience in some of the communities that you're in, where somebody's been around for a long time, but they come back periodically, right? Don't know what's going on, right?
Yeah.
But want that credit and that credibility for having been in at the beginning.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, either you know what you're talking about or you don't, right? No matter how long you've been in. And so to your point, I think it is a good point that the new guy, I think, is speaking with a lot more clarity and insight than the veteran. And yeah, that will be frustrating because you'll hear somebody say, well, I've been in since 2012, 2013. And I can no longer assume that means that you've been paying attention to the project since then.
Yeah.
Right. All that really
Exactly,
means
yeah.
is that you spent money 11 years ago. Right. But you might not know anything at all about the project. Then the guy in the middle says, "What is this? The game where when you lose your ship, you lose all that money? What game is that?"
Right. Well, he's talking about Star Atlas. They get confused about Star Atlas and stuff too.
I believe-
There's a
yeah, I
mixture
agree.
of all types of stuff going on in here.
And all I'm saying, Enigma, he might got confused with the Avengers Dark and Avengers Online. That's all. But I don't know. I give him pass, but Griffin is more harder on that one than I am.
I'm gonna be a little tougher on him, but you might be right. Okay. Here's one that was done by Mid Game Life Crisis called Star Citizen and Squadron 42, The Conundrum. Hopefully I've got the right mark for this. Let's take a look at this one. This one's going to be fairly short, I think.
Talk about it, and I want to hear from you here. What is the biggest issue with this game other than it being stuck in development for 12 years? Over 12 years now. What is the biggest issue? Why do people call it a scam?
Not everyone calls it a scam. Look, the game has some very strong points in its favor, okay? Like you said, having that huge roster of famous actors who have contributed to this project brings a lot to its credentials. And the name Chris Roberts holds much weight with it. People have a lot of faith in him because of the successful franchise of Wing Commander. And him and his brother were also involved in the game Privateer 2, which I don't know if you know it, but I loved it a lot from the 90s. It was a very, very good space simulator with trading and RPG elements and all the things that you said that were crammed in together, and it was done well.
I played Starlancer. I didn't play Privateer.
Yeah.
But I did play Starlancer, which I also enjoyed.
I was about to say, and that's another game that he mostly developed because at the end it was bought by Microsoft and then he left the project. But most of this was from under his wing. And he actually says that Star Citizen is him trying to continue a lot of things that he wanted to do in Freelancer.
In Starlancer, you mean?
Which he didn't manage to.
Freelancer is another similar game, though.
Starlancer, that.
Yeah, so this is pretty much his bread and butter, right? Space simulation, space combat, usually with a epic story and campaign that you can do.
Yeah.
But why are so many people calling, including myself, by the way, I include myself in this crowd, are having serious doubts about this game, are calling it a scam, basically.
Look, when a game is just getting more and more money fundraised perpetually.
We should probably mention how much money they made. They broke like a record in the last few days.
Yeah, they are the highest crowd-funded project in history, and $700 million. They've passed the $700 million mark of raised funds from the public. And this does not include external funding. I mean...
Private funding, yeah.
Yeah, private funding. They also have like 63 million funded from there, which is only going to the marketing. That's not counted in the 700 million.
It's ridiculous. I mean, yeah. And you should also mention they sell bundles of ships, models, and even images of ships that will come in the future to the game for absolutely insane prices. I mean, actually, such insane prices that there is no need for them to ever release the game. Ever. Why should they? Why would they? They have right now an extremely successful company that is almost completely crowdfunded, and they changed, by the way. I don't know if you've heard about this. This is another reason why they're shady in my eyes. They had an issue with about 25% of the player base wanting to get a refund because they realized that this game is probably never coming out
in their lifetime.
They wanted a refund, and they ran into a lot of challenges for getting those refunds. They did eventually get those refunds, but there was they had to get lawyers involved. It wasn't like an easy road for them. And then Chris Roberts and the company basically changed the EULA, okay, if you will, change the terms of getting back your refund to not if you're not satisfied with the game or anything like that, with the pre-alpha of the game. It's only if the game is cancelled. Only if the project is cancelled, only then are you getting your refund. Otherwise, you ain't getting shit anymore. So in that way they blocked everyone else getting the refunds from them.
Yeah.
And that's scummy and scammy, if you ask me.
Okay, let me stop there on this one, guys. Cap, I'll go to you first this time around. Your thoughts on what you heard so far?
I didn't know that 25% of the player base asked for refunds. That was extraordinary information.
They started out good, right? They were hitting the marks in the beginning of this thing. They were pretty much on the mark, right?
They started with the language stuck in development. And right there and then is a characterization of what it would take to do something as unique as Star Citizen as stuck, right? Right there, I would be like, well, I'm not sure I would characterize it like that, but okay.
Right.
Then we get to this part of it. And the guy that said that was self-described as somebody who has called this a scam, right? And I'm glad that he's not involved in the project, because it sounds like some of these folks come up with stuff that I'm like, I'm glad you're not running any project. You would never put the game out just because you're making money from concept ship sales. Why would I ever put the game out? Why wouldn't you? If you're producing a universe sim experience, but they're aware that it's pre-alpha. But I felt like this was another one of those videos where there's just enough information that can be checked that is right to be dangerous, with the other 60% of the content that is opinion, that is straight up wrong, or that is reflective of people's individuated frustration.
Okay. Fast cart.
I'm gonna have to repeat the 25% want discount, want refund, and then they proceeded to show the lawsuit. So it may come across as true for a lot of people who won't know any better, and yet to Captain Sirius point that is the problem. And just with the actual problem with this video as a whole, the background music is way too loud compared to their voices. They need to bring that down. I don't know how long they've been doing it, but yeah, bring down the background music, please. And they're trying to go back to history. They did bring up Wing Commander, and a lot of people. I'm trying to remember, but a lot of people considered it the spiritual successor to Wing Commander, but they were more like Freelancer and Thornmaster. But it could be all of them. It could be all of them above. So maybe that's my memory. Not working for me, but yeah, my biggest problem is that 25% want refund and the background music been too loud.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that, I had the 25% went down as well. That's a lot of people that would leave. Why finish the game, to your point, Cap? Because you'll make more money. That's why.
Right.
You make even more money if you finish the game, guys. I don't know why people think that they're profiting more by stretching it out. The number doesn't make sense. The fact that he opened up with $700 million is ridiculous. I did appreciate the fact that they did give the history, though. That they did go through the history of the games, Aaron and Chris Roberts, the work that they had done, Chris's credibility. That did validate, at least show the path of how this thing got started. So I did appreciate the fact that they did their homework there. But then the decline started happening afterward. The bad information, the misinformation started coming out. And then that made it become a struggle for me when I was listening to them. The thing about the EULA at the end was also another factor about the refunds. This whole thing of, I don't know why people think there's some conception that people have that when CIG makes money, that money is sitting in the bank somewhere, not that it's spent. And so the money's not sitting around for you to decide to say 5 years later, can I get my money back? That money's gone already. So I don't know why people always think that the $700 million is sitting in some Swiss account somewhere. But that people think that for some reason. But the EULA has changed over time. And in the early days, when things were much more on the, what's the word I want to say? In the early pre-alpha days, when things were being structured and fleshed out, refunds. CIG was very liberal with when people asked for their money back. But as time came by, as the studio expanded, as staffing expanded, and as there's more meat being put on the bone, I mean, even Steam has this rule where there's a certain amount of time, hours you can play a game, and after that point, they say, nope, you don't get your money back. And CIG has slowly, incrementally done the same thing when it comes down to this game as well. They still have given refunds back to people when there are hardships, when people have written in. But if it's just the fact that you just up and decide that you want the game back, it's like, no, that money was spent 4 years ago. Your money's already been spent to pay for these people and whatnot, and pay for the production of what we've been doing. So, anyway,
that's all absolutely correct. Sometimes people fail to recognize that this is also a global endeavor.
Yeah.
Right. And so there, EULA is managing not only refund law, but refund practice and culture in lots of different places. Right. So, for example, in the United States, I worked at Sears. And Sears and Nordstrom's were, when I was young and working there, infamous, notorious, right? Respected, but not by the staff for their return policy. I saw people bring back cartons. I was in the paint department. People brought back things of paint. They were full of water from like 1970, but they gave them store credit.
Right. Yeah, right. They sure did.
But then I lived in Scotland, and I bought a projector, and it wasn't the right projector. 2 days later, I tried to return it. And they were like, in UK, you can't return stuff just because it didn't work for you. They gave me crap for like 10 days, and they did not have to take it. Right? So you've got to know that this is a global endeavor. They're headquartered around the world. And the refund sensibility isn't the same everywhere. Refund law isn't the same everywhere.
Right.
And this EULA is reflective of both that and the fact that, to your point, money coming in is money being spent. So
yeah.
And real quick, I just want to say, CID didn't bring lawyers to change the EULA or TOS or what have you until after they got sued, because they didn't have to. Like I said, they had a pretty liberal return policy, but then they got sued, and then they had to make sure everything was kosher, as people may say.
Okay. All right, we're going to look at our last video clip here. This one is by Daily Dose of Thor. This one's about 9 minutes long. I may play this one. No, I'm picking this up, only running this to 6 minutes and 6:25, I think. So yeah, just 6 minutes and 25 seconds on this one. Let's watch this one here.
Star Citizen is honestly solid for the base price. It's fun as and there's enough content there to be worth $40 to spend on it. If you have an idea for an MMO, right? An MMO generally is engaged persistence between players, and that persistent world has some kind of competition in some way or some sort of sharing between those players that is persistent. This is not a persistent world yet. It is a number of technical demos that don't have persistence, commonly have wipes, and as such, isn't really a game yet. It is technical testing of what could one day become a game. So I can't agree with you there. I can't. Maybe one day it could become a really cool game, but the direction of their monetization leads me to believe that that day will never come. Yeah, it's just testing. It doesn't even matter how long it's been tested. Like, you have to understand something. It doesn't matter how long a game is in development. It doesn't. It does not matter how long a game is in development. What matters is the direction of development, the communication of the studio. The communication of the studio is fine. They do a good job of communicating the things they're working on. They have a massive roadmap. The direction of the studio, I can't agree with. The direction of the studio is heavily geared towards squeezing as much money out of the community as possible. I can't agree with that. I think it's gross. And many of the ways that they're squeezing money out of the community could cause damage down the line to their game, such as selling insurance for ships that is lifetime. Something that we know inside of the gaming industry that we've known for a long time is the moment that a company sells a lifetime subscription to anything, that game is going to die. We've seen it timeless times. Over and over again. Go back and even look at something like Hellgate London. Hellgate London was doing just fine, and then suddenly they released a lifetime subscription to the game. The moment you release a lifetime subscription to the game, it's about to go downhill. Happens every single time. I have never seen that work out because it's we don't have enough money. This isn't sustainable. Inject a bunch of money into the system. Maybe we can make it work. And if it doesn't work, the game's going to die. That's why we do that. That is the reason that happens in the industry. So when you have a lifetime subscription to a ship before launch is even out, that is a massive red flag to me, dude. That is a massive, massive red flag to me. That is dangerous because the cost of running that the whole time, you're not recouping on any of it. So what the hell's going on there? On top of that, having $687 million when you're still in beta? That's disturbing to me. That's a lot of goddamn money. Didn't know that's a swan song? It is generally a swan song. It is very rare that a lifetime subscription is not a swan song for a studio. Very rare. In this case, it is a red flag. Not necessarily a swan song, but a red flag. And that's bothersome. Those people could have shares in the company. They could. The other thing that I think is a little bit weird is kind of the community interaction around the game, which is there's a number of people that talk about their purchases in Star Citizen as investments. That is not an investment. An investment denotes some potential for return. That is a purchase of an item in a video game. That's a weird thing, and I don't understand culturally why that's being used. That's odd. It is not an investment. Should not call it that. I don't know why there's a number of people that have used this term, but it's very strange. Yeah, investment implies the potential for a return. Yeah, no, not an investment. And there are purchases in there that aren't ridiculous. There are, for like the initial ships or whatever the hell. But like seeing microtransactions go as high as $48,000, dude, no. There's no way that I could ever say that that's okay. Ever at all. That's not going to happen. So like the reason why I don't like it is this. I come from a time where you buy the video game and then through effort, you earn the ability to progress. Star Citizen, you buy the video game and then you can also buy that effort. You just buy the big boy ships. Wrong? I can go on there right now and buy those ships. I can buy every one of them. I don't have to build them. I don't have to spend time making them. I can just go buy them. You don't buy the game, you buy a ship in the video game. Are we playing semantics, boy, now? Is that what we're doing? Are we saying the game free, but you need to buy a ship to play the game? Is that what we're doing right now? Okay, here, let me make this more clear. In order to play the game, you need to buy a microtransaction in a demo in which there are frequent wipes. What good value? EVE Online ruined itself when it started making skill injectors sellable. Yeah, that was the immediate death of that game to me. You have to buy a package. You have to buy a package that comes with a starter ship. You are still buying the MMO package. Okay, here. Let me make this very clear to you. Any game where I can buy the video game, and then instead of using effort to attain endgame gear and activities, I can just whip out my credit card, is a game. That's it. It's a game. That's a game. I've made it very clear for you. When will you remove the Heartbound demo microtransactions? I'm on to you, Cardboard Cowboy. How you doing, by the way, man? We're talking about Store Citizen, which I don't respect. When you say microtransactions, what do you mean? I mean things that are not cosmetic. If you are able to purchase items that have any type of value in the game, such as being able to be traded for in-game currency of any kind, such as the WoW token, or in EVE Online, the same that ends up being a problem. If you are able to buy an item that gives you some sort of statistic or mechanical advantage in the game, or unlock statistic or mechanical bonuses in any possible way, that is a problem. The only thing that should be sold as a microtransaction in a game where I will not have a problem is cosmetic. It needs to be cosmetic in nature, not giving you a statistical or mechanical advantage in any possible way. That's it. This is a very simple concept. You're not going to wriggle your way around it and try and be like, Star Citizen is actually selling you cosmetic ships. No, they offer statistical and mechanical advantages to those different ships, unlocking additional content or different ways to play with more people, or at a statistical advantage over other ships. As such, this is pay to win. I refuse to play pay to win games. They are not fun because I'm not fighting you, I'm fighting your credit card. Dumb. It's very simple. And I'll fight you all day in a video game. What about...
Okay, FC. How was Daily Dose of Thor? Was Thor right? What do you think?
Make it stop! Oh my god. Okay, alright. Selling insurance for a ship. Where did you get that from? I'm just kidding. Selling insurance for a ship. That's not what happens in Star Citizen. You actually buy a ship, and the ship has insurance. But you can buy a CCU that has extra insurance on it. So he can a lot of stuff mixed up. Right? You can buy a CCU for a ship and increase the insurance on it. But you're not really selling the insurance. You're selling the ship. You're upgrading the ship, and the insurance come as a side effect of that. And lifetime subscription, where is that? Because I want to sign up for that right now. Give me the lifetime subscription. Just show me where that page is, please. This is kind of funny.
Do you think that maybe he was mixing lifetime insurance and lifetime subscription? Because it sounded like that's what he was doing.
That's what he was doing, but I don't. But I don't know how someone could make that. It's like
alternate facts, like we said, alternate facts.
Sure. I just want to say two more things. The scene transition that he does, the sound effect made me jump. So when you see me jumping the video, that's what that's from. And then I just gotta say, Star Citizen is maybe just not for the person. So you find a game and spend your time on it, they would enjoy more.
Okay. Cap?
Yeah, I have no idea what this person does. I mean, they clearly pontificate, but I have no idea what they do.
Let me answer your question. Weirdly enough, he is a developer. There's a video that just came out of him. Did you send me the video? Someone just sent me the video of this guy. He worked for Blizzard, and he started working for Amazon. That's why he said those of us in the industry know this.
Okay.
Interesting.
Maybe
interesting.
I think I don't know. Was that the same guy? I think I sent you that video. Was that the same guy? That's interesting.
Yeah.
He would never exhibit the capacity to develop anything other than that publishing model. Right. So if that's the same guy, then he's lamenting Blizzard. Right. He's currently satisfied, or he was, with Amazon. Right. But I don't think that he would have the imagination to deliver this model, because this model requires the selling of something in order to sustain it, in order to build the game outside the publisher model. Right. What he's saying is, I want to see a publisher model. And to me, what I'm hearing is, I can't imagine anything outside that. Right. Because if CIG was like, well, you're going to build the 890 jumping game, but we're going to sell you the cosmetics for it, I'm not sure that we would have the resource base in order to build the game at the AAA, quadruple A level that we want.
Yeah.
It's not pay to win, right?
Yeah.
That's just, that tells me you don't. Right. That tells me that you don't play the game. You haven't played the game, unless your belief that MMOs are about competition or sharing exclusively creates this narrow world in which anything can't be any more interesting, right? So for me, how do you win better than me seeing the mountains and the grasses of Microtech? If that's what I want to do, and I want to have that experience, you could pay infinitely and can't win that better than I can. There's no winning of that, right? So when in a universe sim, pay to win is a narrative that's kind of broken, and it reduces everything to what's already been, right? It reduces everything to what's already been. I liked that he said the length of development doesn't matter. I agree. The direction of development matters. I agree. Communication matters. I agree. We disagree on over the overarching arc of those things, but I think those statements are absolutely correct. And we're not in beta, so you need to stop saying that. And it's my understanding that backers asked for Legatus packages, right? The CIG did not impose that, but backers said, hey, I can't always be around for when you make the short-term Javelin available. I can't always be around when you make, let me just support the project at a high level. That's got nothing to do with the experience in game. Sorry, go ahead.
And real quick, no one is holding a gun to their head to make them buy a Legatus package. They don't have to buy it if they don't want to.
Yeah.
And if I can afford a $48,000 Legatus package, or if I can afford a $48,000 golf membership, or if I can afford a $48,000 vacation on the island of Vanuatu, then I'm not really worried about it, right?
True.
Those things that I can afford, right?
Yeah.
And you don't need to be worried about it. The question you need to be worried about is, what does it cost you to get in the game? And that's $45.
Right.
Okay.
And one last point I would say for him, it's something I agree with him saying. It's not an investment, and that is true. But there is an emotional and time investment, but that's more towards the community, at least in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's with everything we do. Right.
Yeah. Just the quick ones I want to hit on. One, tech demos was his favorite phrase for describing the game still. There's other observation too. It's the question of how many people, and we look at all the people we've looked at today, how many of them have played the game? And the people who played the game had a certain perspective about it versus those people who have never played the game. Okay. And in this situation is, he says, right off the bat, I will never play this game. So he has issue with monetization, which is interesting because for developers, two things you need to do any type of game is money and time. And his attitude of saying that CIG is squeezing money from its community was interesting. It's a fast card's point. People spend money because they choose to. No one's coming in my house, taking my wallet, opening my safe, taking the money from me. I just make a decision on whether or not I want to move forward with it or not. We talked about the lifetime subscriptions, the investments we talked about. Microtransactions, again, not understanding the dynamic of how this game is based around. He's looking at, he called the $48,000 a microtransaction, which was, that's a macro transaction. If it's anything else. Microtransaction.
It might be micro to him, but it's macro to me.
Yeah, and then the other dynamic of this idea of pay to win, where he got into this whole thing of buying the effort, not doing the effort, not working through to get to a certain place in the game. For me, it said that he didn't understand the structure of how CIG is developing the game, that no matter what ship you get, even if you have a javelin, you can't just take the javelin out and just wipe everybody out in the game. The game doesn't work that way. The value does not equate to your accomplishment. And then he kept using the term in-game, which also said he didn't understand the dynamic of the world that Chris Roberts is trying to create. The in-game is not, I'm not buying this ship to reach some in-game that's going to happen. The in-game might be the fact that the Javelin is the biggest flagship in the game, and I can't get anything else. That's it. But it doesn't have anything to do with my gameplay, And so it's here we are with these misconceptions, these alternate facts again of what people who are, and unfortunately, here's someone who is in the industry and has taken, as you mentioned, Cap, a certain position, and he even states, based upon the game industry I came up in, this is the way games are developed, right? And for him to kind of lock into that and saying, like you said, he's going back to the old publisher model and not being open to see what is CIG really trying to do. Anyway, we've covered a lot today. And hopefully to our audiences, some of these folks have been around for a while that you saw, some of them are new. But what we really wanted to show and raise this question again is, will this be something that CIG hopefully will overcome, either through their own press, their own media, to get people to truly understand? Because I'm still a bit flabbergasted, guys, that 12 years later, there are misconceptions about what Star Citizen is. And unfortunately, it bothers me more that it's from people who are already in the game, not people who are looking from the outside, but people who have tested it, who've played it, who've spent money on it. They still don't completely get what this is about. And it seems like the newer people, like the guy who spent $150, he was getting it. He is willing to admit that there's some issues that need to be done, but he's not the one struggling with the facts. The guys who read out the whole history, they didn't struggle with those, but they do struggle with these other. Maybe it's because I don't know. At first I thought it was because they were outside and maybe they were just listening to other people, but we've got people here who are inside and they're not getting it right. So let me give you guys one real quick, because I know I got to wrap up. just real quick, Fast Cart, you want to close out with something? Cap, you want to close out with something, and then we're going to wrap up.
Something I noticed is that people seem to be happy to be ignorant sometimes. It's like I don't know what Star Citizen is about, but the degree between the lines, it's kind of like they're saying, and I'm fine with that. I don't want to know what Star Citizen is about because so they seem to be willingly and happily to be ignorant and sometimes not all of them, but some of them.
Well, to your point, did you notice that not one of these people said, I went in on a free flight and tried it out? Not one.
Right.
One of them did bring up free flight, but
no. I'm saying nobody mentioned it as their personal experience.
Right.
Nobody mentioned it as a personal experience as to why they took the positions that they did. Cap, what are you going to say?
I was just going to say that there's an adage that submits you are all day, every day entitled to your own opinion, but you are never entitled to your own facts, right? And it's okay to not like something. Right? It's okay to not like something. But to say I don't like it because of this fact when it's not a fact is what I have a problem with, right? I expect a lot of people to not like Star Citizen. My wife will fall asleep when you start using Star Trek, Star Wars terms, right? If I said dilithium crystal, she's out, right? She ain't playing Star Citizen, right? And that's okay. But to declare certain things about Star Citizen, you got to be accurate, right? And I think that this is a discourse and a push and push back that we're going to have for some time until and unless, to your point, Griff, CIG becomes really, really good at storytelling, right? So like the making of Star Citizen can reveal some of this stuff. That we know there's a project that's on the plate somewhere. The Chris Roberts coming out and not just doing Letter from the Chairman, but a renewal of the ideas of the mission and vision of the work could help with that, right? Until then, it's going to be this sort of discourse across social media, and social media's algorithm is driven for reaction, outrage, and controversy. So it's going to be it's an uphill battle, but CIG can cut right through that with ongoing declarations of what this project is and who it's for, right? So.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, we had a great conversation today. We've got to wrap things up. I really appreciate you guys sitting with us and watching these videos. Hopefully you chuckled when we did, and hopefully you didn't roll your eyes too much at the same time like we did.
My eyes almost fell out of my head a couple of times.
Had to put it back in.
Yeah, but the reality is that we can be in our own bubble in the Star Citizen community and feel that things are going so great and so wonderful and seeing progress, but there's also reality that there are other people who see Star Citizen from a different lens. And hopefully in time, to Captain's point, CIG will be able to put out the right information that allows people to see and give Star Citizen and Squadron 42 a fair and even chance. And hopefully that's what we'll see happen in the future. But again, thank you guys for those of you who've been subscribing to us and supporting us through Patreon and YouTube. Of course, you guys see this video first. Thank you so much for your continued support and just faithful following for all the work that we've done. And to those of you who are not familiar with us, the Soul Citizens, hopefully you guys will be able to tune in and watch us. You can visit us on Soul Citizens on Twitch and YouTube. Information is there to find out about our various shows that we do. To Captain Serious Fun, to Fast Cart, once again, guys, thank you so much for lending your time and energy into this show today. And as always, we say to you guys, Cap, why don't you kick us off with
peace,
love,
and soul. You guys take care.